pleasure to speak with you today, Chris. I had a chance to see Shelby Oaks last night. I thought it was a great film.
Thank you.
A lot of films nowadays put a focus on over-explaining their plot. But with Shelby Oaks, you went for a much more show-than-tell approach. Why was the visual aspect of this film so important to you?
Visual storytelling is where I get most excited. I love the idea of letting an audience kind of start to figure things out for themselves without telling them. I think, or be so unsettled or put off by something that they're like, oh, I have to think about that. You know, because that's my favorite experience with movies, period, is when I see a film that activates a side of my brain where I'm driving home and I'm still thinking about it, and then the next day I'm like, oh man, and then I'm Googling movie explained, trying to sift through all the different theories and hearing how other people think about it. But yeah, there's like a 7 or 8 minute portion of this movie without dialogue, where a character is just trying to find something. And I really love watching actors think on camera, and you're allowed to kind of be still in a moment of quiet. And we tried to do that in Shelby and try to find ways to tell the story visually.
Yeah, and it's, for a lot of horror films, it's less the lines of dialogue you remember and more like the visual moments, like the kid getting her head snapped off in Hereditary and things like that really stick with you. And I think you have a lot of those moments in this film. But coming from the world of, you're kind of a pioneer for online film criticism. So you have a unique experience of, you've been there. So how do you approach criticism when it comes to this film, knowing you've been on the other side of it as well, but this is your film?
I would say probably the same way any filmmaker does. You know, you get reviews, you read them, you're like, all right, cool, you liked it, oh, you didn't like it, all right, whatever. You know, it's like, it's one of those things where I've read a lot of reviews, I've watched a lot of reviews, I've seen probably like 100 at this point, and I think it's obviously a very valuable art form. Film criticism is an art form. I was just talking to a filmmaker at Fantastic Fest who told me that he sometimes learns more about his movies reading the reviews than because he gets the different POVs of people who are like, oh, I felt this, or I thought this, or I experienced this, and oftentimes it's definitely not what the filmmaker, was experiencing while making it. But that's the beauty of many people bringing their own personal life experiences into a piece of art, and they can feel the way that they want to feel based off of their life or how the movie's interacting with them.
And I do have to ask you, because I was at the screening yesterday, and in the Q&A, you mentioned that you had a favorite scene that Mike Flanagan advised you to cut.
Yeah.
Now, I know that sometimes you can have a great scene that just doesn't fit within the full project. Yeah. Can you give any insight as to what that scene was?
Sure, yeah, no, there's an exploration scene in an abandoned amusement park. So the scene's still there, but it was longer before. There was, in the current cut, you see one rusty ride. There's a lot more rusty rides that we filmed, and they looked so good. They looked so cool on camera, and they're not in there anymore because it was just too much. It was just too much exploring. We didn't need to do any more exploring, so we chopped that down a little bit. But he was right, though, and the pace works really well now for that moment. But I miss seeing, like, we had this roller coaster that was like peeking out through the tree line, and it just looked so sick. And some teacup rides that were sitting in a pile of like rust and moss, and it just looked awesome. Maybe I can figure out a way to put those on the Blu-ray. I don't know.
Well, I hope we get to see them there. And you did mention that you have a prequel idea and a sequel idea for this film. Yeah. Which of those two is the direction you would like to go most going forward, or do you want your next feature to be an entirely different idea?
I'd very much like to make another original film next, but like in the future, if I was so lucky, I do think the prequel idea for Shelby holds a lot of weight. There's a lot of things I'd like to explore that have been sort of hinted at in this movie, and the sequel idea, I've got a lot of ideas going too. But the truth of the matter is I have a thing that I'm hoping I can get going on pretty soon. There would be another original movie, and we'll see if it comes together.
Well, I hope it does come together. I'm very excited for what you have coming up next. I think this is a great directorial debut, and I hope everyone goes see Shelby Oaks when it comes out in theaters.
Thank you so much, man. It was cool to meet you.